Well, I have a pretty bonkers clip of Donald Trump to play for you. It's an interview he did, and he got asked about TikTok because it seems he's flip-flopping a little bit regarding his stance on TikTok. And the CNBC host asks, is that the case? Are you changing your stance? And I dare you to try to understand what the heck Trump says. What stance is he articulating in this couple minutes of this interview? Just a complete short circuit, a word salad of all word salads. I actually saw the media reporting on this, said Trump stumbles through word salad on banning or not banning TikTok in CNBC hit. That's understating it. Take a look.
Mr. President, talking about China, I want to ask you about perhaps one of the biggest business stories and policy stories of the moment, and that is TikTok. You have called TikTok a national security threat. At one point, you said that their, quote, data collection threatens to allow the Chinese Communist Party access to Americans' personal and proprietary information. And yet it appears that you've now reversed your view on banning TikTok. Why is that?
So I had it done. And then Congress said, well, they ultimately usually fail. They are like extremely political, and they're extremely subject to people called lobbyists who happen to be very, very talented, very good, and very rich. I could have banned TikTok. I had it banned just about. I could have gotten it done. But I said, you know what? But I'll leave it up to you. I didn't push them too hard because, let them do their own research and development. And they decided not to do it. But as you know, I was at the point where I could have gotten it done if I wanted to. I sort of said, you guys decide, you make that decision, because it's a tough decision to make. Frankly, there are a lot of people on TikTok that love it. There are a lot of young kids on TikTok who will go crazy without it. There are a lot of users. There's, a lot of good, and there's a lot of bad with TikTok.
Mr. President, though, is TikTok, but do you believe that TikTok is a national security threat or not? Because if it is, and I believe that the emergency powers order that you had put in place at the time suggested that it was that not true?
I do believe that. I do believe it, and we have to very much go into privacy and make sure that we are protecting the American people's privacy and data rights. And I agree, but, we also have that problem you have that problem with Facebook and lots of other companies, too. I mean, they get the information, they get plenty of information, and they deal with China, and they'll do whatever China wants.
I want to bring in our legal expert, Aaron Parnas, because we'll be getting into the TikTok story more broadly, big news on that front, so stick around for that discussion. But first, to what you just watched there with Trump, so Trumpian. What a ramble word salad and a half, saying so many words to articulate nothing. Congress could have done it, but I could have done it, but in a second term, I would have done it. But, some people say it'd be bad to do it. What are you saying? What is your stance? My goodness, answer the question directly. Before throwing it to Aaron, please make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and click the alert bell. Aaron, what are your thoughts on that before we get into the TikTok story more broadly?
Yeah, I think the simple thing when watching that Trump clip is that Trump himself does not know why he's taking a stand one way or the other on the issue, and that's why he's rambling. He obviously didn't read the talking points given to him by his lobbyist donors that well, because had he read them, he would have had a more coherent answer, but it's clear he didn't. He doesn't have a coherent answer, and Luke, between you and me, this is becoming more and more common for the former president on the campaign trail. The longer it goes on, the worse it's looking for him.
True. Don't tell anyone, but I think Trump's falling apart. Just between us. Yeah. So that's a disaster. But what's the news on TikTok when it comes to the House of Representatives?
Yeah. So earlier today, the House of Representatives voted. I believe it was 350 to about 65 was the vote in favor of a bill that could ban TikTok in the United States. It's not an automatic ban on the app, but the bill would require TikTok to divest from its parent company, ByteDance, over national security concerns. That ByteDance is connected with the Chinese government. TikTok would have about, I believe it's 160 or 165 days to divest from the parent company. And if it doesn't, then TikTok will be banned in the United States. Now, the House of Representatives passed this bill. The Senate is now going to consider this bill, but the future of the bill in the Senate is murky at best. It's not clear whether it's going to go anywhere. But if it goes to the White House, it's likely going to be signed by the president because of national security concerns. And then it's going to face significant challenges in the courtroom. So we're a long way away from a TikTok ban, but the first step happened today.
And that is huge. I know this is less legal, more political, but what is your take on the flip-flop we've seen from Trump and then also from Republicans who initially were full ban TikTok? And now, like you said, it's more unsure in the Senate, and some Democrats aren't fully for it either. But initially, all the Republican Party seemed to be on board. Now, some of them are walking it back, including Donald Trump. What's that about?
Yeah, so it's interesting. And the answer is really twofold. First, whatever position President Biden takes, Donald Trump just takes the opposite. So President Biden is saying that he will sign this bill if it gets to his desk. So that means Donald Trump has to obviously say he would not sign this bill, just to kind of play to whoever out the detractors of President Biden's, both in the Republican and the Democratic Party, who do not necessarily support this piece of legislation. So that's number one. But number two, and probably the more important reason, is Kellyanne Conway has actually been hired to lobby members of Congress on the Hill to keep TikTok and to not ban the app and to not pass this legislation. There was reporting that Conway even spoke to Trump about these lobbying efforts, and that likely swayed his viewpoint as well. I think I read a story where Conway actually told Trump that many of his own supporters are on TikTok. So that's why you see Trump out there really fighting for TikTok, because he thinks it's a boon for his campaign. Vivek Ramaswamy is doing the same. And some pro-Trump influencers are as well. And that's also why you saw it today, folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene vote against this bill, even though they've been screaming and yelling about China and TikTok for as long as I can remember.
Right. I want to add into this conversation what could be playing a big role. You touched on a little bit, but Business Insider reports Republican former President Donald Trump recently said he's against banning TikTok, a reversal from his previous position. His comments came just days after meeting with a billionaire GOP donor with a large stake in the company. So that could be playing a huge role, and that's the really icky part of politics that constantly rears its ugly head. And then the talking point from Trump has become, here was something he wrote on Truth Social, if you get rid of TikTok, Facebook and Zucker Schmuck, very mature, will double their business. I don't want Facebook, who cheated in the last election, not true, doing better. They're a true enemy of the people. So the way he's framing it is not, hey, I have this GOP mega donor that I want to make happy. Instead, it's about not helping the competition, Aaron. Yeah,
I mean, for sure. At the end of the day, I think most of the American public, no matter what political party you are part of, no matter who you support for president, will agree that there are serious concerns about social media generally, whether it's TikTok, whether it's Meta, whether it's Twitter. It doesn't really matter. Every social media platform comes with concerns. We saw what happened with Meta in 2016, and the ability of the Russians to kind of get involved there. We see Elon Musk's ownership of Twitter, how that's going. We have the Chinese relationship with TikTok. We see how that's going. So there's really no good social media company out there. But to just single out TikTok out of all these other companies, to me, doesn't really make sense. And it seems like there is a bigger kind of play going on here. And you see that from the way Trump is talking about his meeting with the big TikTok donor and things like that, and just his opposition, given the fact that he doesn't like Zuckerberg. Not surprising. But just to put it in perspective, every social media platform has problems. TikTok isn't the only one. Why are they only going after TikTok? Not 100% clear.
Yeah, I think the argument would be because of the connection, like you mentioned, to the Chinese government. But I do hope this prompts not necessarily outright bans across the board. I don't think that's necessary, but a broader conversation about privacy and protecting that for Americans. Aaron, where can people find you?
On all my social media platforms at Aaron Parnas, and so long as TikTok is still around, at Aaron Parnas with the number 1.